Welcome to Spiritual Dialogues with Father Udon de Castro. We are here at Cariana Lay Monastic Community. I'm your host, Brother Lodi, and with us is Sister Tachi. Sister?
Yes, Father. What's our next topic, Father?
We had began discussing the summit in the Vatican City about the clerical abuse, which our last dialogue was about to be held. And now as we make this program, it has been held already, it's finished.
Finished.
Yeah, and the declarations have been made, the results of the meeting and so on. And of course, the analysis of all the people of the meeting has been coming out in the newspaper. And during our last dialogue, we mentioned the fact, and that was before the summit in the Vatican, we mentioned the fact that it was going to be a failure.
Yes, Father.
In other words, they will not be able to analyze the sin or the crime that is being committed, and therefore they will not be able to give a solution because they are not able to analyze. And we said it was going to be a failure because of that, because they don't know the dynamics of the problem, how it happens, and how to solve the problem. And all the commentaries on the Vatican Summit on abuse last time precisely showed that it was a complete failure.
Oh my.
And the one who announced the result of the meeting was Cardinal Tagle of the Philippines. And if you analyze the things he said, you can see very clearly that they did not know the dynamism of how it happens, how those crimes committed by the Catholic bishops in America, how that could happen to a bishop, and secondly, they could not propose a solution to the problem.
That's it? No, of course, we knew that, but...
Yeah, and we said it was going to happen.
Yes, it was going to happen. And so, in other words, they completely stated that that's it?
No, they didn't say that.
Okay.
In fact, what showed was that they did not know the solution and they did not know how to analyze the problem. And therefore, the result would be they will not be able to solve it.
So it finished like that?
Yeah, it ended like that. And so everybody is feeling very bad because this is a synod of all bishops from the Philippines and from the whole world, and nuncios even were present and experts and so on, and they were not able to solve the problem or even analyze it. And we said before this summit that this was going to happen. And the reason we said that was because it has happened in the past.
Yes, Father.
Meaning to say, this sin has been committed in the Old Testament, in Sodom and Gomorrah, and they were not able to solve it. That's why God destroyed the two cities of Sodom and Gomorrah. But at least the Old Testament described the dynamism why those sins are happening, are being committed.
Dynamism means the situations.
Yeah, it was able to analyze the problem. It was able to analyze it. But in Sodom and Gomorrah, they were not able to solve it because the solution cannot be found in the Old Testament. It can only be found in the New Testament.
Yes, Father. But the solution, I guess, is in the inner self of in the individual, which was described in the New Testament by Christ.
Yeah, it can be found in what you call spiritual theology.
Yes, Father.
That is, of course, a teaching of Christ. You're right, Brother Lord. It's the teachings of Christ and so on. And it has been gathered by theologians and the fathers of the church, and they devise a solution and an analysis of the problem. And therefore, the analysis of the problem already described in the Old Testament was again written down in what you call ascetical theology, which used to be taught in the seminaries but are not anymore taught very well these days. But the solution is something only found in the New Testament. And this is found also in ascetical theology and the writings of the fathers of the church, and most especially, it was exemplified by Saint Peter Damian. So we know that it has happened in the Old Testament, we know it happened in the New Testament, and we know also very well that it was not solved in the Old Testament, and it was not solved also in the New Testament.
How come there is no solution in the Old Testament?
Well, because the analysis is found in the Old Testament, but the solution is only found in the New Testament. Yeah.
You did mention before about the Sodom, at least in the scriptures, it said they were eating and drinking
And marrying.
and marrying.
Yeah.
And then, was it like that?
Yeah.
Uh,
It seems harmless.
It seems,
All
it
that
seems
eating
people
only
will just say, so.
drinking
Yes.
and marrying,
Yes.
But we shall explain it.
That's what. Okay.
Precisely because the meeting in the Vatican did not describe how the sin takes place, the dynamism of the sin. We're going to explain it.
Okay.
Because our purpose in this program is to try to resolve the confusion in the Catholic Church. And we shall also give the solution, because they did not give the solution. Precisely so people will know what is the sin committed and the solution to the problem. So the point is, we know very well the analysis of the problem and the solution, but we know also from the history of the Catholic Church that they were never able, the popes, the cardinals, and the bishops were not able to solve it. That's why when this meeting in Rome took place, we were saying exactly the same thing. That just as the Pope, the cardinals, and the bishops did not know the analysis of the problem and the solution, we expect the same thing to happen, and that is exactly what happened.
But we also did say in that last analysis that if they went, that it happened in the 1100s, and the Pope asked Peter Damian.
Yeah.
But it seems they never even took up, or nobody mentioned Peter Damian and his solution. I guess
Well,
it's too hard.
they mention it.
They did? Okay.
Well,
And
not the meeting in the meeting.
okay.
But I mean, many writers have mentioned,
I've mentioned
it.
it, so there, yeah.
They knew the problem. The writers, the theological writers, they knew the problem. They analyzed the problem. The analysis was not very good. And the solution was nowhere to be found.
Okay.
But like you mentioned, this has been analyzed already in the Old Testament. The solution was given in the New Testament. So we should know. Because this information is kept in the treasures of the Catholic Church, and the writings of the treasures of the Catholic Church. But like we mentioned before, even if this information was available in the knowledge of the Catholic Church, popes, cardinals, and bishops could not solve it. Solve it.
How come they fail to analyze and they fail to find the solution to the problem? They are supposed to be the authority on these things, Father.
In other words, even though it's written down already, how come they did not know it?
Yeah.
And the reason behind that is because the analysis of the problem that they were trying to solve during the crisis summit meeting in the Vatican.
This recent one.
Yeah, recently, finished. Is something natural. So anybody really can know it, can understand and analyze it. The problem was natural. But the solution was supernatural.
Oh, that's the great difference.
Yeah, in which case only people which has sanctifying grace, whose spiritual life has been risen to the supernatural level, can understand the solution.
You mentioned about sanctifying grace. Isn't it the most important thing for a priest to have it? That sanctifying grace which will make you understand holy and just?
Yes, in fact, before a priest is ordained or a bishop is ordained and consecrated, they're supposed to be in the state of sanctifying grace. Even lay people like you, before you marry, you're supposed to be in the state of sanctifying grace.
We're supposed to be, but we're not.
Yeah, the trouble is that many people do not understand
Yeah.
the concept of sanctifying grace and how to attain it. And so many lay people like you are marrying without sanctifying grace. That's why your marriage are not very successful.
Correct,
Because
Father.
there is no sanctifying grace.
That's right.
And many priests and bishops also sometimes are ordained without sanctifying grace, without realizing it. And therefore, they don't turn out to be good priests or good bishops. And they wouldn't know the solution to this problem that has arisen and discussed in the Vatican. They wouldn't know the solution because they do not have sanctifying grace. Because if they had, they would have known the solution.
Maybe some people will ask, how do you get this sanctifying grace?
Well, that one has a longer answer to give. We shall try to limit ourselves into
The problem.
analyzing the problem, which the summit meeting was supposed to do, but which they failed to do. And we're going to discuss the solution, which again the summit meeting in the Vatican was supposed to do, but they did not do. And the question is, how do we know it? Well, because it's written. It has been analyzed by the Catholic Church. They have given solution. It's written down in the treasures of the Catholic Church, the writings of the Catholic Church. But nobody understands it.
Did they ever search for it there?
Well, maybe they did not search for it because they did not know it was there.
Okay.
They did not know it was there. For instance, if I tell you the solution, well, first, the analysis of the problem has been given to us by St. Peter Damian. It's found in the ascetical theology, which all seminarians and priests study, and bishops, they all study that. It's part of the theological course you study in the seminary. Ascetical theology is found there. How to analyze this kind of defects. So the question, how come they didn't know it? Oh, well, probably they were not listening in the class, or they were just sleeping and so on, or maybe they forgot it. But the solution cannot be taught in the seminary because the one who should teach should have perfect faith and be in the state of sanctifying grace. And the seminarians who must be studying should also be in the state of grace and should also have perfect faith to understand it. And that's precisely the reason why these American bishops and cardinals were guilty of this very serious sin of sodomy, precisely because they did not have the grace.
Yes, Father.
They did not have the perfect faith to learn how to analyze this problem and how to solve this problem.
I was just going to say, Father,
Again,
did they even know that they were committing?
they could have been suspicion.
In other words, it's just by, you mean completely not knowing that what you're doing is wrong?
I
Can
think
that
they
happen?
knew. They knew.
They knew.
But they could not understand how it
Where
happened.
it is and where is it come from? Why am I like this?
Yes, they couldn't understand that. So he
If
just continued.
Yes, in other words, if somebody could have just told him, hey, this, you're like that because this, maybe it could have stopped.
So they just continued.
Yes.
That's what we're going to explain. This is the way they become sodomists
Okay.
and child abusers. This is the way it happens. And this is the way to stop it.
Yes, of course. We
That's what you call
from the
ascetical
beginning, right? Yes,
theology.
yes. Okay.
We have only 1 minute, Father.
So that's what we have been discussing. We have discussed at the summit meeting in the Vatican on clerical abuse was a complete failure. It was even announced publicly
That it was a failure.
by the words, from Cardinal Tagle. And from his words, you can see that they were not able to analyze the problem, and they were not able to propose the solution to the problem, and therefore we expect the problem of the bishops and the cardinals. These are bishops, and these are the problem of bishops and cardinals, and priests, of course. And therefore we expect it to continue. Of course.
Was it stated like that? I mean,
No,
more or
they
less,
didn't
not
say
in
that.
black and white, but
that is-
that's what
yeah,
it said.
That's going to
And
happen.
actually, that is what you said was going to happen the last time.
Well, yeah, that's
As
why.
you said, it will just.
That's the natural
There's
consequence.
there's no solution, so it will just, well, let's live with it.
Yeah, that's what is going to be the solution.
Let's live
Let
with
us
it?
Well, that's what Cardinal Tagle said. Well, since we cannot
it's-
solve it, we
let-
just
we
live
have
with
to
it.
live with it. I knew. It's a
Something like
horrible-
that. He said
let's
something
live
like
with
that.
it.
Yeah, live with it, something like that.
Oh.
Thank you very much, my dear sister.
Okay.
These spiritual dialogues with Father Udon de Castro and his homilies is like the salt and light of our Lord Jesus Christ. Please continue watching Spiritual Dialogues with Father Udon de Castro. Thank you very much, my brothers, my sisters.
Hosanna, Hosanna,